Assalamu alaikum. Welcome. I see people joining in. Good evening, good morning, wherever you are. Inshallah, you all are well. Let's get started. I'm going to start with the dua, inshallah, and then the drill's the same every week. I am here on Instagram Live, 7:30 p.m. Mountain Standard Time. I don't know what time it is where you are, but maybe you can write that in the chat. Tell me what time it is where you are tuning in from, AM, PM. It's always fun to see where we get the audience from. Bismillah, alhamdulillah, wa salatu wassalam ala rasulillah wa ala alihi wa sahbihi wa man wala. Inshallah, you all are well. May Allah count this towards our ibadah, for me, for you all. MashaAllah. Okay, I see India, 7:30 a.m., 7:30 p.m. There's someone same time zone as I am right now. So whoever's joining, we're saying what is your local time currently where you're tuning in from? MashaAllah, Ohio, 9:32 p.m. Calgary. You know, I have a friend in Calgary. MashaAllah, that's awesome. I had to ponder and reflect what would be the best time for everyone, and then I realized I can't, cater to everyone. So inshallah, this is good for most people. This is a time that I can join. This is when everything kind of settles down and I have some time to do something aside from the kids' schoolwork and Quran and sports. Okay, I have someone from Denver, mashallah, welcome. Okay, bismillah, I'm here. I hope you brought your parenting questions. I wanted to reiterate that this is going to be parenting questions and mother's development, healing, growth questions only. I am not a therapist. I'm not a professional in mental health. So anything in that field, even though I study a lot about it, I read a lot about it, but I'm not a professional in that sense. So if I get questions that have to do more with mental health, I'd have to skip those. So go ahead, please, if you have any parenting questions. I'm going to put my chair down a little bit. There you go. No questions? I always say, subhanAllah, during as overwhelming as it is with social media and the abundance of information that we live in, it's so hard to pick the right sources and even decide where you want to get your information from. But I sometimes reflect, I'm like, subhanAllah, during the time where I had my kids and they were little, I would have loved to have somebody like guide me. I had to read books and join courses and go to workshops. So subhanAllah, social media, the internet, digital world, as hard as it is to navigate it, especially when it comes to parenting, it does make things much, much easier. So please go ahead, write in the comments your questions. I'm going to be here until 8 p.m. So for 30 minutes, I'm going to take whatever parenting questions you have, inshallah. And if not, I always have some questions that are sent to me, so I can take those, inshallah. Okay, bismillah. Can you suggest some sources from Quran learning for my girl? She is 7. Okay, that's a good one. So Sister Rabana Hussein, you are asking about sources to teach our children Quran. Now I have to clarify something. When you say learning the Quran, I mean, it's so vast, right? Learning the Quran. Are you talking about stories from the Quran? Are you talking about reading the Quran, memorizing the Quran, learning tafsir? What are you exactly looking for? And I get that a 7-year-old, I mean, she's just starting, so I'm assuming it's stories and just getting introduced, or is it more like teaching her certain surahs? What exactly are you referring to? Reading the Quran. Okay, that's beautiful. So I would say, I don't know if there's just one way to do things. Actually, I know there's not one way to do things, but here's where I started with my kids. This is how I started with teaching them how to read the Quran. First of all, I taught myself qaida, of course, using resources online. I just wanted to make sure, because where I grew up, the pronunciation has not always been really according to the rules of tajweed. And I'm not saying I'm a professional now with the way I recite, like tajweed, but I wanted to be better with the pronunciation and saying certain letters a certain way. So I taught myself qaida, and then I taught my kids. But right along, when my third son, so two of them I taught, and then my third son, by the time he was around age 4, 5, I know I started him super early. I didn't do that with my daughter. I started her literally at 7. But with him, the older two brothers were already in a Quran Hifz program. And so my third son, he did qaida with a sheikh. And so from the parents I know, from my own experience, I know that you can teach your kid yourself. There are classes in our communities. I mean, local masajid, most of them have teachers who teach qaida. If not, there is a ton of online resources now. I have people from my community, even though there's teachers in our community who teach Quran and qaida, they choose to go the online route. So they have teachers from Egypt or from Libya, and they join online, and the teacher teaches them first qaida, so reading, and then when they have finished the qaida book, it's a little tiny booklet, then they move to the Quran itself and then just keep reading there. So what I did is I just used online bookstores. Even Amazon has a ton of things. I would order qaida books, little booklets for my kids that would make them super excited, like now I have my own qaida book. And then from there you can decide, are you going to teach your child if you're proficient, or are you going to take them to a teacher? A teacher can be local at a masjid, or you can get online teachers. And then from there on, once their journey starts, subhanAllah, they can, once they're reading relatively fluently, then you can transition to memorization if you want, or you can continue just reading the Quran and then introduce them to the meaning, inshallah. There's a ton of resources nowadays. I would say search up online bookstores. They have a ton of curriculums where you can introduce short stories about the Quran, or meaning of the surah, or stories from the lives of the prophets, peace be upon them all, from the Quran. Yeah, mashallah. And that's and I'll tell you, Sister Rabana, there's nothing wrong with that. Mashallah, I respect that so much. And I'm telling you, I was there. There came a point where my oldest son was about, I would say 5, and I wanted to teach him the qaida, but I didn't feel comfortable. And so I started my journey, and subhanAllah, it was such a quick journey. It was, let's say, I think it was Ramadan of 2014. Ramadan of 2014, within 10 to 15 days, I got through the qaida, and then from there on, it's just practice, right? Then it's your journey as well. Every morning, I do at least 1-2 pages. I listen a lot to a sheikh, and then have the mushaf open, and then follow along, and that way you learn a lot, subhanAllah. But then once you are farther along, if you want to pursue the journey of getting better and better at tajweed, then there's of course teachers online for you. But once you kickstart your journey, then you can help your child, inshallah. Yes, and Sister Zamzam says, I have trouble with some surahs and tajweed. And it's a lifelong journey, right? There's no end point. I mean, we have big shuyukh who are still on their journey with the Quran. And so there's never an end to it. So I would say be gentle and be kind with yourself. Start the journey, say Bismillah and go for it. And one thing I have to mention is that if you want your child to be on the journey of the Quran, it is so important that you show them that you do that too. And that doesn't necessarily mean that this is only available for parents who are just learning to read. Even if you are proficient with reading the Quran, you can show your child that reading the Quran is not just for you, it's for us. It's part of a Muslim's life, right? It's part of our everyday. So read when your kids are around you, recite it, memorize it, put the Quran on in the car, and that just becomes part of their identity. Then they don't feel like you're doing something to them only, right? They see you practice that as well. And this is with everything in parenting. So yeah, inshallah, may Allah bless you for your intention and put barakah in it. Inshallah, make you and your child people of the Quran, and all of us. Ameen. Yes, and sisters, I know it's very hard sometimes to pronounce, especially when you're raised with a different language. But subhanAllah, when my kids, when they're memorizing and they are having a really hard day, subhanAllah, I messaged their sheikh the other day. My daughter, she is memorizing, she's in the second juz, so in the 29th juz right now. And one of the ayat in Surah Suratul Insan, it took her 15 minutes to just memorize one ayah. Usually it's super quick. And I messaged her sheikh, I said, I don't know what's going on, but this was really hard for her. So I hope you can be a little gentle with her as well. And when I see my kids struggle like that, then I tell them that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gives you ajr for being engaged with the Quran anyways. And then when you're struggling, subhanAllah, the reward of that is even multiplied. So in a way, it's beautiful. Look at the rahmah of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Look at the mercy of Allah and the kindness of Allah to give us even more ajr when we're struggling. So I feel your struggle. I've been there. Some letters are super hard. But like I said, if we change this mindset to a mindset of the Quran, there is no end to it. It's a journey, right? I remember when I started memorizing with my kids, I sat down one day and I broke everything down, and I was like, if I memorize, I don't know what it came down to. If I memorize 9 lines a day consistently, then I can be done. And of course it failed, right? 4 kids, and I'm helping them, and I'm trying to memorize. And as moms, how much we carry, and it's work and the house and groceries and cooking and cleaning. And so I fell off track. So I really needed that shift of mindset that the Quran, the journey with the Quran is not like, okay, I got to do this and then I'm done. No, you're not done. It's going to be a lifelong journey. So the more we accept long and steady pursuit of it, it just becomes easier for us, inshallah. May Allah bless us all and help us become people of the Quran, and guide our children towards the path of the Quran. Ameen. All right. Any other questions? So just to reiterate, any questions regarding parenting, mother's growth and development and healing, but not really anything mental health or like anything like that. All right, we took 1 question so far. Write me in the chat box your parenting questions that you have, and I'd be more than happy to answer them for you. Keeping an eye on the chat box here. No questions? I'll share with you I'll share with you something that, so the people who join my email list, I am contacting them on a consistent basis twice a week. So on Tuesdays or Wednesdays, I send out an email about just a topic related to parenting. And then on Thursdays and Fridays, I send out an email regarding, like I call it the behind the scenes. So a story from my life that week, an update, a struggle that I had. So SR Angel, any tips for raising teenage boys? You have to make it a little bit more specific. So I'll keep sharing here, and I'll keep an eye on the chat here. I mean, raising teenage boys, do I have tips? I think I have thousands of tips from raising 3 boys so far and a girl, alhamdulillah. But that's a very broad question. So if you can narrow it down, ask me something specific, inshallah. So yeah, in last week's behind the scene email, I shared something that comes as a surprise to many of us, and that's when our kids turn into teenagers and they're slowly trying to distance themselves, right? And so I have noticed that a lot of parents like genuinely get hurt and shocked when they see that their teenager is now actually pushing them away. Okay, I'll come to that question in just a bit. How to encourage a teen to learn and love our religion. I'll come to that in just 1 second, sister. So, and I wrote in my email that it's so normal to have that. Psychologically, humans are wired to push off a little bit, because if we don't, then as parents, we tend to treat our kids like little children for as long as it can take, right? And so something has to change in the kids for us to realize that they're on their journey of turning into adults. So if you are interested in my emails, check out the link in my bio. You can sign up for a free parenting video series or anything that I have. And then that way you go on my email list and I'll be in touch with you twice a week, inshallah. Okay, so tips on how to make sure they're respectable and friends with us parents and not go astray or have the wrong friends. So in order for our teenagers to become teenage boys, to consider the home environment an area of friendship and comfort and want to be around, they have to feel safety inside the home, I would say. And this safety, again, it's such a broad topic. I mean, I could create a course on just this, right? On just this question that you're asking, my dear sister. But teenagers, I always go back to this example. We are like the chargers and our children are the phones, right? Just an analogy that is relevant to this time and age. If our children are phones, then we are the chargers. If a child senses and feels that this charger is not a really good match for me, there's too much judgment, there's too much criticism, there's always nagging, they will slowly drift away and find circles where they can find chargers that are, a good match for them. And we don't want that, because we don't know what the outside environment is offering them. We want to keep our kids close. Not close in a sense where we're controlling them and we want to keep babying them, but in a way where they want to be with us, right? And so friendship at home starts with firmness. Definitely do not forget that you are, as a parent, the authority. Be firm, but be super kind and respectful. And I think that's where most parents lose their teenagers, is they are not respectful to them. They're too harsh. I hope I'm making this clear, that when I'm saying be respectful and kind, I'm not saying allow your teenager to do whatever he or she wants. That's not what I meant. That's not what I mean. What I mean is set boundaries. You are still the authority. You're going to say, this is okay, this is not. But the way you do it, it really requires some skill. Like, you have to be, maybe the situation requires from you to say it in a very playful way, but stay firm. Maybe you say it in a very kind way, but you let your child still know with your words that this is what I mean. We're not gonna, I'm not gonna negotiate on this. And so when children feel safety from nagging, from criticism, from judgment, from shaming them, that's when they consider the home a safe place, and then they want to be your friend. That's just naturally, children are wired to want to be close to their parents. They actually, it's strange enough, but even with misbehavior, that's what they actually want from you, your attention and your involvement, even though if it's not in a good way. But so if you give that in a good way, then they want to be your friend. They do, absolutely. And I have seen both sides in close family and friends in my own home, where kids can be pushed away because of how the parents act and behave, or they can be drawn in. And it's never too late. That's what I always tell parents. We are the adults. The responsibility falls on us to initiate good relationships with our children. And it's never too late, even if you feel like you messed it up. Hope that answers your question. I'm going to go back. How to encourage a teen to learn and love our religion. Great question. And I think that's one of the top desires that we have as Muslim parents. Again, we can't control others. We can control ourselves only. If you are a role model to your child, if you show your child that you love the Deen and you practice the Deen with ihsan and with excellence, right? Your children, subhanAllah, this sheikh I was listening to years ago online said, there's this invisible line between you and your child. You might not say a word, but your child picks up on your energy, your emotions, your behavior. And so if your heart is in Deen, your child's will be too. Sure, there will be some years, could be, where they are drifting away a little bit. And this is not even necessarily that they want to rebel you, but they're actually trying to find their own identity. But eventually a home that is based on Deen and the love of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and the love of Quran and the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, kids will come back. They will. That's just in their fitrah then, right? That's their subconscious brain programming. And so that's why I find it so sad when parents don't practice religion the way they want their kids to practice it, right? They just send them off to the masjid, they send them to classes, and there's nothing at home that they can fall back on. That's not how it works. If you want something for your child, you have to start doing it, practicing it. If you want your child's heart to be anchored to the Deen, anchor your heart first, and it's going to come inshallah on its own. Okay, I'm going to go through the messages here. For those who are just joining, today's Q&A is really drifting more into the Deen side of parenting. Okay. I mean, it is almost 8 o'clock here. I have another call with a sister scheduled soon, so I'd have to hop off now. I'm going to end with a dua. Subhana rabbika rabbil izzati amma yasifun, wa salamun ala al-mursaleen, walhamdulillahi rabbil alameen. Subhanaka Allahumma wa bihamdik, ashhadu an la ilaha illa ant, astaghfiruka wa atubu ilayk. Thank you for joining. Inshallah, I'll see you all next week, same time, Instagram live. Have a great week, inshallah. Assalamu alaikum.